Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our town hall. This evening will be a little different format because we will be having multiple people talk to you about the Tanasi rebill and come up with their points and things that they felt was important about the process and where we are. You'll get to see the latest layout, and which is not a lot different than what you've seen before, but it is slightly smaller. I don't want to give everything away, but the truth is, I have a dream, and my dream is that Tellico Village will be noted for how fantastic it looks, how well organized it is, how the people are the friendliest people in East Tennessee, the highest level of volunteerism everywhere, anywhere. And I'm getting close to that dream. But I don't ever want anybody to come onto this property and say, oh, that looks like. I want it to be the other way around. They go somewhere else and go, hey, you know, that looks a lot like what Tellico Village has, but theirs is better. We want to be that community, and we're getting there. We really are. So this evening, the people who are going to talk to you are sitting at the table. Mr. White will start off first, Pat, and then it will go to Carla, who will talk about some parts of the golf, and then to Casey, who will talk about the other parts of golf, and then Beth Gaberka will talk about the restaurant and all those things. I'll come in after Pat and talk about some of the numbers. You know, that's what I do, talk about some of the numbers. But anyway, welcome, thank you. Everyone find your seats, and we'll get started. Mr. White.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk about the original Tanasi starting first, and let's see if I can manage a clicker here. Nope. And see, this is the first time I've ever, not the first time I spoke, but the first time I've ever used a clicker here. On over here. Where?
Let's see what we got here, mate. Nope, that's not on. That's on.
That's on. And that's on. That little button up there.
Oh, we're dead. Sorry, battery's dead.
Okay, there we go. So I will say next slide. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a little overview of the history and how it was designed. But the original Tanasi building was designed primarily as a pro shop. It was designed as a first impression sales site by CCI. It was designed with a small kitchen that allowed them to control cost. And then we could have easily, as Tellico villagers looking back, calculated 1.8, 1.9 people per and multiplied that by 5,400 lots and come up with 11,000 people and said you needed a kitchen and a building this size, but he saved some money. So our population grew. And then our restaurant seating was limited due to the kitchen size. And the kitchen expansion would have reduced parking spaces. And then we have to determine the driving factors regarding parking, and then golf, restaurant seating, flex space, staffing, and then we had a fire. So now we have a chance to improve on Tanasi. Next slide, please. There we go. So what this planning committee has been struggling with is the balance of this building. And the balance is because we have limited property on the Tanasi Peninsula. The size of the parking lot limits the building size unless you want to spend more money and go more floors or into a basement. Number of restaurant seats increases the building size. The number of golfers increases the parking lot size. Number of restaurant patrons increases the parking lot size, and the increased size of the building and the parking lot increases the cost. So we're looking for a balance between these three items. And next slide, please. What group drives the parking needs? So that would be golfers at peak course usage utilizes the most parking spaces. So the question would be, how many golfers, staff, and restaurant users, and is time of day a factor? And is it possible to balance the parking lot size and the building size and keep the paid-for asset, which was the 9th green? That's why the planning committee, took their best suggestion back to the board and said, here is our best suggestion. And the board immediately said, you don't have the balance that we're looking for. The building size, the property size, fill up the parking lot, adequate parking for dinner and lunch, and cost. So they turned it back to the planning committee. Next slide, please. Slide, please. Now I need this. Man, they're giving me the hardest time with this. Hello. Okay. So the way you get parking data at Tanasi, and this has been studied for months and months. As a matter of fact, Beth at times refers to Pat's data, because I've been looking at this for years. But where you get this is from the Chelsea golfer sign-up sheet. And it comes from 3 data points. The first is the number of tee times available, which is this column here. And I put a blank line in there because this is actually 6 pages long. It would be so small you wouldn't even recognize it as Chelsea. But it goes from 7:30 to 12 p.m. The second, and that's 136 golfers can sign up for Chelsea. The second data point is tee times reserved. That's how many people right here. And I made those purposefully dim, because I played golf this last Wednesday, and I didn't tell my wife I was playing golf, so my name could show up here. But anyway, you see a blank there, a blank there, a blank there, a blank there, very lightly. This is how many times are available for people to reserve a time. This is how many times were actually reserved. And the third point is who showed up to play. So you have to look at all 3. So next slide, please. Now we get into the parking data. Looking at those 3 factors, there are 136 available tee times from 7:30 to 12. I'm using 7:30 to 12 because a typical golf 18-hole rounds takes 4.25 or 4 hours and 15 minutes to 4.5, and I use 4.5 hours. How many tee time reservations? This is multiple days, so we studied the days that the courses were light, the days the courses were absolutely packed. And then how many actually play? This is due to cancellations, no-shows, cart path only, fog, temperature changes. All those things cause people not to come in and play. There's other data that we then considered, and a lot of it came from you asking questions about explain this parking to me again. And we had to look at the golfers that are arriving a half an hour before a round. So in other words, if I've got a tee time at 7:30, I typically will show up at 7, putt, chip, get to meet the guys that we're playing with, divide up into groups, and off we go. Then I have another, and that was observed at approximately 80%, and I say observed because we went down and watched. Then golfers staying a half an hour after a round, and that was observed at approximately 75%. And these are the golfers that finished the round in 4.5 hours. They've got a little wager going on, so they go sit at the clubhouse. They get a cold drink. They split up the wager. Some stay. Some go home immediately, and some stay for a long time. I don't know what they do, but they do stay a longer time. Then we had a question about carpooling. How many people actually carpool? Because that will adjust the need for parking as well. So we went back and looked again, and it typically turns out to be at Tanasi, somewhere between 3 and 5%, and I use 5% as the number. And then we had facility staffing you have to look at, because even though I can't count cars that are parking at Tanasi because there's no more restaurant users, we did have the pro shop and the rangers, et cetera. So we put a number in there, approximately 25, I believe, and then we added in the existing rangers. Next slide, please. So the results of all of this is that the maximum golfer parking required, including staff, is 143. The maximum parking hourly range is 11:30 to 3. Now, what happens also between 11:30 and 3? That's where the restaurant starts getting patrons to come in. So initially, the issue was we have 127 parking spots at Tanassi, the old Tanassi. We parked in the fire lanes and we parked on the grass. People pulled into the restaurant and left because there wasn't parking. So if we do not account for that extra for lunch, then we end up with, what did I say before, 135, 36 golfers at maximum day. You will only have 7 parking spots for lunch. Not acceptable. So now what we're doing is we're looking for a balance. The parking lot for lunch period 11:30 to 3, above 143. And this is what the board asked this committee to do. To balance facility size to accommodate more parking, to balance the use of available property size, balance the parking lot size, and then remain an attractive non-Walmart type parking lot. And the last is balance the cost. So how do we achieve the balance and provide bigger and better, which we all want? And next slide, please. The rest of the presentation will be covering these items. I'm about to go sit down. Thank you very much. We will be discussing the square footage, and from the survey results, we will be discussing restaurant seating capacity, lunch and dinner. We will be discussing, again, from survey results, flex space for meetings, groups, and et cetera. And from the survey results, we will be discussing separate dining for golfer post-round socializing. That means I'm there with my friends and family having a nice, peaceful lunch, looking out over the lake, and a group of golfers come in and start screaming, you know how we do. So the suggestion was, is there any way to separate those two? We're all going to look at making sure that we have an adequate or more than adequate or adequate, and they'll discuss this. Kitchen size, again from the survey, the outdoor seating. Again from the survey, private dining, group dining, and music nights. Again from the survey, large bar area. And then we're going to discuss pro shop size, golf cart travel path within and without of the parking lot, dining and golfer parking, the traffic flow within the parking lot and from 444 into and out of Tanassi. And then we're going to discuss retention ponds, because when Tanassi was built, there was not a requirement by the government to have retention ponds, which we now have to have. And then we're going to discuss what we all like to discuss a great deal, the TVA 820 line, which we've had surveyed. And our next presenter is Chet Pillsbury.
Thank you, Pat. So next slide, please. Okay, well, that's not exactly on space, but we'll try and make it clear. So if you look at these numbers, a couple things that I want to point out is I'm trying to do some comparisons here, because everybody says, well, what was it like compared to X? And so as we go through this, I want to go over some of that thing. So we're going to start with seating as an example. Now, one of the problems that we've had, frankly, at all these areas here, the new Tanassi, the old Tanassi, Tokwa, all of them have these interesting anomalies with seating. So we'll start with the old Tanassi. In it, approximately had 116, including the bar. Tokwa has about 86 seating, including the bar. Now, all of you who've ever been to Tokwa, you're immediately thinking, well, I've been there when there was 100 people inside. And you're right, there were. But how were they in there? Seats crammed on top of each other. They all wanted to sit in there and watch the football game, and they could barely move. The servers could barely get to them. So is it possible to put 100 in there? Yeah, it is, but it's not really the way I'd want to eat. We're going to be able to put 137 in the restaurant and at the bar in Tanassi. Outside, Old Tanassi had 60. Tokwa has approximately 60. And again, anybody who's been there on Tuesday night know there's way more than 60 people sitting outside, but they're not sitting on that deck. They're sitting out all over the lawn and everywhere else. Here we have 69. Now, when we get to the design, which we'll bring up next, not right now, but when we bring it up next, you'll see that we are being conservative with the seating, not conservative with the space. There will be enough space there that where we could almost double that and have people sitting appropriately, not backed up to each other and sitting on top of each other. And we've done that deliberately. We want to be able to expand. We don't want day one to be all we can sit. That's it. That's all we got. So we've designed it so that we have the ability to have more seating as we go along. Same thing with the total, it says 206. One of the key factors that's going to help us be able to do that is the next item, kitchen serving capacity. The old Tanassi had the capacity to serve 65 people. Tokwa has the capacity to serve 120. We'll have the capacity to serve 300. Now, all of you are going to go back again and go, what do you mean? We had 100 people there. You did, but I'm going to ask some important questions. Sunday night at, I don't know about Old Tanassi, so I'll go with the things that I know about. You're at Tokwa. There's 300 people there, outside and inside. How long does it take you to get that lunch? How long does it take you to get that beer? Quite a bit of time. When I talk about seating, and I said 65, 65 could give appropriate service, which you would expect to get, not hours of waiting. The same thing here. 120, you don't have a long wait. You get over that, and you're now waiting. The same thing is going to happen here. Up to 300 people will be able to serve in an appropriate manner, not unlike the yacht club, as an example. Now, parking, everybody's talked about parking. Just to give you some examples, 127 parking spaces at the old Tanassi, 165 at Tokwa. By the way, both of these, well, that number, I don't even know if I could tell that, but this number does include handicap. This number also includes handicap, and there's 229. Now, you're saying, wow, 229. On an evening meal, if we had 229 cars show up, how many people is that? 400. So we've had to try and build the ability to expand. That's been our challenge. Now we look at square footage. I wanted to be clear about this. If you looked at the plans, that's how it's drawn out. I think everybody would agree that the pro shop was not 3,500 square feet. And the restaurant was definitely not 6,100 square feet. But the usable space at the old Tanassi was 9,149. But to the point, we've only increased the size, overall size, because this size does include everything like this number did, the 14. All of this space, almost every bit of it, is usable. There's no dead air. There's no closets that you can't use. There's no area where the ceiling is too slanted and you can't put things. Every bit of space we've got in there we'll be able to use. And we've only gone up 2,000 or so square foot to get there. So design has been a key thing. Now we talk about restaurants. You can see that the size of the restaurant is 6,300. The golf area is much larger than the pro shop at the old, and it's 55. And that also will include some flex space. And cart storage is much larger because we wanted to be able to put 72 carts underneath. Yeah, 72 carts underneath. So we talked a little bit about our constraints. One of them was, and the board, to their credit, didn't really have a feel for this until we brought back our first rendition, which was big. And it also got into taking up the ninth green. And so once they had a vision of this, they said, yeah, we can't lose the ninth green, and we're going to have to scale down. So we did. So they gave us a process of $7 million to look at to see if we can do that. So currently, based on the square footage and based on a number that I've been throwing around since the beginning almost, $312 per square foot, these numbers put us in line for the $7 million. $5.3 million for the building, $1.6 million for the landscaping and the parking lot. Now, those numbers look really good. I would not call them fiction, but they're close. We don't have a real number yet. So what we're going out now to do is get a construction manager to help us take our drawings and go out and get bids so that we can come back to the board with numbers that are 90% on the money. Now, I'm not telling you that that number's that far off, but it's not 90%. I mean, if it turns out to be 90%, that's the best guess I've ever made. But that's our next step. But I wanted you to know those are the parameters that we've worked under and the board has given us to do. Let's go to the next slide just real quick. So all of you, I think, have seen some variation of this drawing. This has now been modified for a slightly smaller building here, the 9th green here, and we've modified some of the parking lot, and there's some other changes that will be made. For all of you who are still panicking over the docks, this is not guaranteed yet. We are waiting for TVA. And if TVA does give it, they may not allow us to come down this far. They may only allow us to go over here. We don't know the answer to that yet. But that's the plan at this point. We'll see how that goes. But in terms of retention water, we have to have the water quality down here. We have to have these over here. These are now state regulated. Nothing new there. One of the things that I think was a surprise to everyone, and to give you perspective, at least I'm going to try to give you perspective, you'll note that the cart path has to go below the 9th green. How many of you, do all of you know where the parking is that used to be there for if you went on your boat, you could park your cart, and it was right down here by the water? The edge of that concrete is right where the edge of that building is. So this is going to be moving in a completely different section, for lack of a better word, of that land, and it's going to be much closer to the water, which I guess is good, or at least I think it's good. And there's a lot of other things that I'll let other people talk about that are unique, but I wanted you to get you started and help you understand this. One of the things we talked about with traffic and TDOT, has already given us permission to build in acceleration and deacceleration lanes in those two areas. Because right now, maybe I'm different than y'all, but trying to pull into Tanassi when there's a lot of traffic, you're really worried you're going to get your rear end hit because it just stacks up there. And you don't have a place to slow down. You've got to stop in the middle and then turn. So that's the advantage of putting in those deceleration lanes and acceleration lanes out both sides. So we've tried to think as of many problems as we could along the process. You'll also see that the parking lot is kind of divided up a little bit, and part of that is trying to get golfers on one side and restaurant goers on the other side. And as we go through this, we're going to talk about some more of the spacing, and some of my cohorts in crime will also talk about more spacing inside. But the one thing I want to make really clear is that we listen to you. I have emails after emails after emails of suggestions. Oh, wait, I do have one group to apologize to. There will be no roof bar. I'm sorry. We tried. But outside of that, in terms of parking, in terms of flex space, in terms of restaurant, in terms of seating in the restaurant, how we manage the golf space, all of those things was based on all of y'all's input. It was not done in any vacuum at all. In fact, that was constantly our reference back to, okay, what did people say they wanted? How can we produce that? Or if there's a problem with it, what do we need to do to change? Back to the roof bar. So that's one of the things that we looked at along the way. So I'm going to turn it over now to Carla, and she's going to talk a little bit about the golf space and flow.
Thank you, Chet. My name is Carla Johnson, and for the past 6 years, I have worked at the Tanassi Pro Shop. So together with the rest of the staff, we've been through golf operations at the previous Tanassi Clubhouse, at the lovely Snack Shack, any of those of you who golfed during that time, and at the new temporary building that we now call home, which is absolutely wonderful, actually. So I just want you guys to know that I really appreciate, the patience of all of our golfers, the volunteers, the staff. It's been really about the best situation that we could have asked for after this kind of a devastating fire. So rebuilding the Tanassi Clubhouse is a tremendous opportunity to provide the excellent functionality, convenience, efficiency, and a higher level of customer service than we've ever experienced here in the village. And that culture of customer service, which is designed to provide the best possible golf experience, is being driven by our Director of Golf, Casey Flanagan, and you'll hear from him in just a few minutes. But it is truly a pleasure to serve on this committee with staff members and property owners who are all very dedicated to the task. So I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to be a part of this. So we need to go to the next slide. Yeah, so right here on this right-hand side of your screen is what we're calling Golf World, okay? So Casey's going to tell you all about the golf operations and what goes on outside, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is proposed to be going on inside in this facility. So when you come in, you can come in these front doors right here into the pro shop. The desk where you will check in is designed to be right in the middle of the shop, so you can come in and you can get assistance there. When you're done checking in, be sure to check out the 1,000 square feet of beautiful merchandise that Casey and his crew will be putting in there, and it's sure to be a really great showcase of merchandise there that I think you all will enjoy. Now, in this building also are offices for our golf pro and golf assistant, storage, restrooms, all the utilitarian things that you need in the golf clubhouse. Once you check in for golf, you have a couple of opportunities. If you are riding in a cart, you will come right back out these front doors, and the cart staging area is going to be right there. Remember that increased customer service I told you about? A staff member will have already put your bag on your cart. You'll be ready to go, and you can take off down to the practice green and warm up a little bit, take some practice putts. When it's your turn for your tee time, you'll go right back up to the starter shack, which Casey will tell you all about how that's going to work. When you can also, if you're walking or if you just want to walk out of the pro shop, you will also have the opportunity to go down the stairs and walk right over to the putting green. So that's all going to be very convenient right there next to the pro shop. When you're finished golfing, or if you get there early and you want to meet up with your playing partners or your group, whatever, we do have some great space built into this part of the building for that. So you can come in, you'll be able to come in from the parking lot through the middle here, and you can come in this side of the building. There's a little lounge right here where you can hang out with folks. You can go through here. There's flex space on this side, so there'll be places to hang out. And this is really cool. There's a patio lounge right out back. So it's outside, it's covered. There's a little fireplace there, designed to be able to be used for year-round lounging out there, right, with a beautiful view across the lake at hole number 10. So you can watch folks play that hole and never hit the ball in the lake over there. I think that kind of covers inside Golf World, and I think it's going to be an absolutely beautiful space. It's going to be very flexible. We'll be able to use this space for many options in the future, and so I think it's really forward thinking. And as I mentioned, the guy who is that visionary is Casey Flanagan. So I actually asked to introduce him today because I think it's very important for you all to know how fortunate we are to have Casey's visionary leadership. And he's here now to share with you the basics of golf operations under this proposed facility plan. Thank you very much. And here's Casey. Oh yeah, shall we tell him about that? He did actually win another golf tournament yesterday. I told him he's getting boring. All he does is win, but we should have a hand for Casey for winning that over at the Troubadour Golf Course in Nashville.
Thank you. I'll start by saying I'm much more comfortable holding a golf club than this microphone. So if you'll go back one slide to the site plan, I'll be happy to go through some of the process and some of the thought behind this. So when the fire happened, and we started the committee, I had three main goals. My first goal was I thought this was a chance to maintain our strengths within the golf operation at Tenassie, but then also capitalize on our weaknesses, and we knew what those were. My second goal was for the new building, and still is my goal, to not lose the functionality. The previous Tenassie building was very functional, and I definitely didn't want to see that functionality go by the wayside. And my third goal, and probably my main goal, was I saw this. I love the saying, it takes one person to fall down for everyone to stand up. And I think this is perfect for what's happened at the Tenassie site. We see a chance to, we no longer have that building, we're building from scratch. For me, from a golf operations standpoint, it's my chance to build a Tenacity Golf and a Tellico Golf culture. When I use the word culture, I don't use that lightly. When I talk about culture, I'm not just talking about thanks for your money, have a great day. I'm talking about a first impression. When you pull in and the first thing that you do, can we go back to that site plan? Yes, perfect. When you come off 444, no matter which direction you're coming from, right here will be a bag drop. Be a staff member in a red shirt and a name tag and a Tellico hat. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, great to see you. I'll take care of your bag. If you'll go utilize this golf area parking lot, go drop off, walk right in the front door, pay your round, whatever your payment plan may be, walk right out to the golf cart staging area, and then go wherever on the property you'd like to go. Rather than turning in off 444, realizing it's 12:30, as Pat talked about, the lunch crowd is in full effect. You get this parking spot here, and you carry your bag all the way to the northeast end of the property. Okay, so allowing a golf member or a staff member to serve you, now we can get you trained, and this will be a learning curve, but pull in, a staff member takes care of you, then you go in the golf shop, and you hopefully, and if not, let me know, but hopefully that first person you saw was kind to you, right? And I think Chick-fil-A when I think about this, right? Where they've got that, what do they say? My pleasure. I try. My kids and I play games. Can we get them to say, you're welcome today? And they never will. It's always my pleasure, right? That's the kind of customer service we want through this. So we want to see this bleed over into Tokwa and Kahiti, the utilization of bag drops in Tellico Village, and this is a great chance. After you drop off that bag, park the car, you've paid up, you've got your golf cart, you'll see this large putting green and a great view of the Tellico Lake there in the 10th hole, which is obviously in the top right part of our screen. On that putting green, a big to-do for me was, great, we've got everything done. Now where do they go, right? We've got to get them on the golf course efficiently. So we went through various plans. Were we going to put cameras on number 1 tee, number 10 tee, so we could see what was going on? Are we going to build a starter shack somewhere in this area, or just a simple starter stand? So finally we settled that we can continue to use what's already existing, that starter shack. So no different than at Pebble Beach, where their putting green is down near the retail shops, and they have speakers built into the landscaping. Jones, party of 3, 747, you're next to the starter shack, right? You'll hear that announcement through multiple light speakers. It won't be one loudspeaker deafening you. And you'll know to report to the starter shack. And then your check-in process is flawless, just like it is now. Our starter already has an iPad, and they know exactly what time, who's in your group, and what tee you're going to. Okay, so very excited about the chance to utilize what's already there. That'll be your last chance to hit the restroom before you get to number 6 tee. There's also ice. There's water already there. So the big thing for me is 88% of our play is from our members, right? So you already know where the starter shack is at Tenacity. That's not going to change. So when you're on the new putting green, you hear your name called to go to the starter shack, there is no learning curve. You know where that is on the property. You go up there, and then we take care of you from there. Let's see. As we get closer to this, my good friend Pat White and our Director of Golf Course Maintenance, Wells McClure, who's sitting back here, if you haven't checked in, go to Tellico Village Network. They're doing a great job with Golf Talk. And we're trying to up-to-date. Every month we shoot Golf Talk, and they get it out to you, and it has tons of updates on this. And we're going to be on site via Golf Talk to kind of go through the flow, right? I don't want to define a flow right now because that might not be the best flow once we're actually on site and this thing is built. So I want to get the most efficient way to get to this. So utilize Tellico Village Network, go to Golf Talk. You're welcome to send me emails, and we'll have tons of publications. You'll see me and the staff a lot of times telling you how the flow of this is going to work. So as I wrap up here, I'd like to thank the committee. I know there's not a lot of them here, but they have really, and maybe it's fair to say I'll be in there and some staff members more than anyone, right? That's where my office is housed. And they've really valued our opinion from day one. The functionality, the operation, the strengths, the weaknesses. So if I could tell you anything, it's excitement on our end. I know that this is a great chance for me to thank the staff at Tenacity and the volunteers. You know, you went 9 months in a starter shack, running operations, only missed one day, shuttling golf carts half a mile to and from. So thank you to the staff, and thank you to the community for all of your help. So at this point, I will introduce Beth Kaburka, and she will go through some more of the operations from the restaurant side of you.
All right, hello. Kevin, if you can go to the next slide. I'm going to be discussing the floor plan and kind of the thoughts and process behind the restaurant. As you can see, this will be the main entrance into the restaurant right through here. This is that main corridor that we've been talking about that will look out over the lake. This is all covered. We have an outdoor patio lounge that's covered, so that's going to be great flex space for a lot of different activities. When you first walk into the restaurant, this will be the waiting room, and there's going to be seating. I know that's been lacking in some of our locations as you wait for your table. And then to the left side, we have a private dining. So we know that people like to have birthday parties, they like to have smaller get-togethers, and they don't want to be out just in the main dining room. So we took that into consideration. This bar is made to bring the outside in and the inside out. All of these doors will fold open. So on a really nice day, the doors can be all open, and there's going to have walk-up stations for golfers to come in, grab a drink. They might decide to go back out to the outdoor patio location, or they can hang out in the bar. They can come over here to the golf flex space. They have a lot of options of what to do after their round. When you come into the restaurant, it was really important for us not to have one large dining room where it just had a bunch of tables. We really wanted to create an atmosphere and a great place for people to have intimate dining and open dining. So what we've done is we have some booth seating, and then some long social tables, and then your normal 4 tops, 6 tops. The kitchen, as you can see, is about 3 times larger than the old Tenassi kitchen. The kitchen design, we're actually in the process of laying out. It is going to be a much better and more functional space. The outside dining, you have several opportunities to get out. This is all patio. So someone asked online, have you considered music? Yes, we have. So if we have a band at night, they might come sit up out here, and then there's some additional seating available where we can put up more chairs for that experience. And I believe that's it from the restaurant side. All right, Chet. Oh, hold on, I have one more. Sorry. Thank you, Pat. Next slide, please. This is the basement. No one normally really cares about a basement, right? But it's very important in this case because it holds all of our golf carts. So this whole space is the storage for the 72 golf carts. We have those important rooms, electrical, mechanical, a bathroom, and then this stairwell will go up to the pro shop. It's a staff-only stairwell. That way they can get up and down really efficiently. And then all of these doors roll up, so it makes it efficient for the golf staff to be able to pull carts in, pull carts out, wash them, and put them back. One of the reasons that the upstairs ended up keeping the golf flex space is because we needed that square footage for the cart storage. So you'll notice that this floor plan mimics upstairs. We did look at moving some of this underneath towards the restaurant, but that would have been a lot more cost. So we decided to keep it this way, and then that gives us more space upstairs to grow into the future. Now I'm done. Thank you.
So the other thing about that basement that is key for everyone to know is that we're hiding lithium battery carts in there, and the current code requires that those are going to be about 1.5 foot thick concrete walls. It literally is a bunker to protect any other kind of fire situations from the lithium batteries, which is apparently a new code, or it's a relatively new code with the advent of lithium batteries. So a couple quick questions. We're going to have the bathrooms for the boaters will be twofold. They can either come in the building or they can go back to the starter shack and use those restrooms. Somebody asked that question online, so we thought we'd throw that out there. The other question is why didn't we have the rooftop bar? Well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, the design of the building did not accommodate that. And I hope y'all will take this as kindly as I mean it. An 84-year-old person drunk going up and down stairs scares me. And I'm just being really trying to be tactful. But that's one of the main reasons why because we didn't want to put in an elevator. If we had an elevator, that would be a different story. But an elevator is the gift that keeps on giving. It is constantly a maintenance issue, a cost center. it just goes on and on. So we were trying desperately to not get into the elevator mode. So that's the, I guess if I were to be blunt, that's the honest answer why we didn't put in a upstairs bar or rooftop bar. Okay, what's next? As I mentioned earlier, we're going out to get a contract manager, or I should say construction manager, and he's going to help us get the bids. So hopefully at the next town hall, we'll be talking money, or should I say we'll be talking realistic prices for what's going to be the cost of the building, which will give the board a better understanding about what they can approve or not approve. And we'll bring that back to, of course, y'all, as always, for you to review. A couple other things. Due to the food service coming on and several other projects that are having to be reviewed, I promise I will talk, we will probably move back the open budget meeting coming up, not next week, but the week after. Anyway, we may move that back, so I'm just giving you a heads up that that's going to come out. So if you were planning to be there for that, that won't happen that date. We're going to have to move it back so that we get all the information in and corrected before we have that meeting. All right, I guess, is there anything else y'all want to add to this before I go on? Yes, ma'am. Sure, let's go back to the restaurant. There you go.
I just think it's worth noting because I love this idea, even though we didn't get the rooftop bar. As Beth pointed out, where that bar area is, let me show you right here, all of this can be open to open air. So that is open overlooking the lake in the 10th hole. This is open overlooking the breezeway, so you'll get some air through there. And I think it will kind of give you that great feel of that outdoor bar area. So it's a good, yeah, and it's a little bit elevated over the lake. It's on that, the kind of that same level where the Tanasi patio seating was before. So I think that Telco Village will love it. Even though we had to give up the rooftop bar, I thought it was worth noting that that's going to be a really special space, I think.
All righty. So, in the interest of time and everyone's patience, what do you got? Let's open up the floor and let's talk. Here's one thing that I would like to request, is that we keep any comments or questions to 3 minutes, because there's a lot of you here and I want to be sure that everybody gets it. And there's a hard stop at, well, we got time. We got time. So who's first? Who's up? By the way, just as a giggle and grins, how many of you, by show of hands, are happy that we're bringing the food service in-house? This is just my curiosity. Very good. Well, you can applaud too if you like. The committee that did that did a great job of putting that whole process together, and that was headed up by Mr. Orr, John Orr, one of the board members, and I think they did an excellent job, and I think it's going to really benefit the community once we get it up and running. Yes, sir.
Okay. My questions are in the past, not the future. As we're getting ready to spend $8 million investments, I'd like to understand our last $5 million investment a little better. When we were shown in a meeting like this, the financials for that, we were supposed to be positive cash flow by this point. We were supposed to be selling lots in 2024. I have not seen any updates other than the master plan that says we're not going to sell lots for an extended period of time. But are we positive cash flow from our real estate investments, the commercial side?
Beth, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, we do have a development plan in place, and we have been actively working towards that. We have sold 6 lots that we acquired through CCI. The board will be reviewing, we'll have an update at the next board meeting on some recommendations for the land plan. The commercial side is bringing in revenue more than what was projected, and it most definitely, between it and the dock revenue from what we purchased, covers the loan that we have currently from the CCI purchase.
Okay. When the budget meeting we had when you did budget last year, we had the interest from the debt against the budget of the POA. We had no income from the commercial side. In this year's budget, will we have income from the commercial side in that budget process?
Yes.
Okay. I've got one more question. When I first moved here, we put a new roof on the rec center, which failed, and we sued the contractor. I have not seen any recent updates on, is that lawsuit still pending? Is it still open?
That is closed, but we can't discuss any of the details. Hey, I didn't make that decision. Don't scowl.
You know, this is a properties owners association. This is
I understand that, sir, but
So-
legal agreements, the property owners are not invited to the legal discussions either. So
I
that's why
understand that.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just
Did we
telling you
cover our
that's what
legal
we're-
fees?
Sure.
So we have more money than our actual legal
We
fees.
did settle.
For more than our legal fees. That's a specific question.
I'm sorry?
Did our settlement cover our legal fees? Thank you.
Did we? Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. I just wanted to be sure because I wasn't a part of that. That's why
Okay, yeah,
I don't know the answer to that.
And I thank you for the honesty. And I thank you for the information. I look forward to seeing what type of cash flow we are going to receive from all our commercial investments.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes, sir, you're up.
Two questions. Number one, is there a backup plan in case the contract manager says it's going to be $8 million?
Well, of course there is. And we always are looking at this with the idea, okay, what can we take out? Always. So there's a ways to reduce the size. There's a way to take out this portion, maybe reduce flex space, maybe reduce the size of the kitchen, outdoor outdoor seating. There's just a ton of things we can get rid of. But at this point, we're waiting to get those numbers before we go down that rabbit hole.
Okay. Second question is, what is the indoor seating capacity?
Okay, go back one slide.
In dining room, actually.
One more, sorry. So inside seating capacity is 137 seats.
And it looked like the outside was almost as much room as the inside.
Oh, the outside has way more room than the inside. Go back, go down one slide. Sorry, I hate to do this to you guys. I wish I had the clicker. Right here, stop for a second. All of this is undercover, and you're only looking at this part right now and a little bit here, putting seats. All this space out here, all this space here. This area, we have some seating, but we could go larger there too. The beauty of this design is that we're not limited. Day one, we can look at what we have and say, okay, is this enough? But if it's not, we can make those changes. Go up one more slide for me. Inside here, you'll see that, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's seating here, here, and here. We've left lots of room to move around. If we really needed to increase that indoor space, we could change up these tables and some of the other seating. You'll notice that in the bar, there is seating as well, not only just around the bar. We could up those as well to give additional seating indoors.
The area all the way to the left, where there's no writing or...
Right here, that's
Yeah.
an open deck. That's an open deck, and it's covered. I'm sorry, it's not open, it's covered. Okay, I apologize. So, go back a slide. There we go. All this dotted line you see here and here, all of this is roof. All of this is roof. So most of that area will have a covering over it. You see these little dots here along the way? These are the pylons holding it up.
Yeah. But I mean, that cannot be enclosed on a real cold stretch.
I'm sorry?
That cannot be enclosed in a cold stretch of time.
Well, what we're planning on doing here is that any of these areas that have roof cover with a edge is we're having them wired for drop-down doors and heaters. We don't know if that's going to work out, but we're having them wired ahead of time. That's part of the original plan.
Yeah.
So that if we decide, hey, we could do better by putting drop-down curtains and heaters in, then we'll have that ability.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. You said the golf cart storage now requires a 12-inch concrete wall. Did I understand that right?
I may be exaggerating, but it's way more than 8 inches. It's the 8-inch block. I believe it is actually is 12 inches thick.
The ceiling too?
Yes. It is literal. That's why I use the term. It's literally a bunker.
That's a very expensive golf cart barn, isn't it?
That's because there's lithium batteries, brother. That would have not been my choice.
Well,
by any means.
I wonder how soon they're going to make residential do that with all these electric cars.
There is a potential of that, I might add. Sorry.
One other question. Can we go back to the 312, the page that shows the 312 a square foot? That one, yeah. Now, is that 312 based on heated and cooled space, or is that under roof, or what is that 312 based on?
Which number?
312 per square foot.
This one here?
Below that. Right,
Oh, cost per square foot. That is 312 feet. Square foot, that's everything. That's the decks, that's everything.
okay, so that, the golf cart garage is included in
Golf
that?
cart garage,
Decks?
all of that square footage is.
So it's really under roof, pretty much, that's the square footage under roof, plus the basement, really?
Sure.
Okay, okay.
I mean, if you want to do the math, basically,
Well, that's
it's
what, I can't do the
that
math.
number times that number gives you that number.
Say that again, do that again?
This number
Okay,
times that number gives you that number.
okay, okay. So that's cart storage, golf cart, restaurant, the whole deal, okay. And that's with cooking materials or cooking ovens and furniture?
That does not include, well, let's put it this way. That number, when it was originally given to me back in no, it wasn't, it was March, forgive me, March of this year, that did include fit and finish. I'm telling you that's probably not correct now.
Well, building materials have actually gone down here recently. The labor, of course, is not, but the building materials
Right, building
have.
materials has gone down, that's the good news. And ladies and gentlemen, I really want to be right about 312.
Yeah,
I really do. But at the end of the day, until I know, I'm blowing sunshine here if I don't be honest with you and say I don't know what that number really is.
I appreciate you saying that because that was less than I was expecting it to be, and that's an unusual surprise around here. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Do you have a budget for the furnishings and tables and all of that? Because that's going to be pretty expensive.
We don't have the specific budget for that yet, and let me tell you why. There's a combination of issues with that. It's a great question, though. Once we find out what this number is for real, at the same time, we're out right now pricing furniture, carpeting, kitchen material. We have the space, and we actually have a designer who's designed the kitchen, but we're now looking at what's that going to cost in reality.
Because in my last organization, we just built out, the kitchen and a new restaurant, and it was $1.7 million just for that,
Sure.
not the structure itself.
Sure.
So.
Well, we're hoping we will not be building a $1.7 million kitchen. That's all I can hope for. You won't have one. Yeah, well, that's the truth. We won't be building a $1.7 million kitchen. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Chet. I really have a problem with the fact that that boat dock is showing moved over into the cove.
I understand. I do. And there's lots of people who have voted that they think it's great, and there's other people who do not. But the reality of it is this space in here is a no-wake zone. I know that people swim in there. They're not supposed to. And
No, that's not where they swim. They swim farther down, closer to the road, which is plenty of, what you need, 300 feet. It's definitely that. I put my rangefinder on it. It's definitely more than that. But if you move that over, then we cannot use it for swimming, floating, kayaking, paddleboarding, which we do now. If that boat dock is moved over there, that will null and void the use of that cove. And I don't think there's a lot of people in the neighborhood that realize that, and once they do, it'll be too late.
Well, I think that it's been discussed a lot. And so if people don't know that that's going to change that concept of that particular cove, they should. And again, I will repeat, TVA has not approved that yet. It's in our plans, but that doesn't mean they will.
Well, the problem I'm having is that you're even asking. That you're even asking to do that to that cove.
Well, the reality of it is trying to get the boating experience correct for for this area, and having that here and not having this over here, number one of the biggest complaints we've gotten since day one, since the day I got here, even after it burnt down, is there was no guest boating parking there, or what was there was too shallow to get a boat in. So the only way we can begin to try and accommodate everybody, and it's our plan, doesn't mean it'll be that way, is to move things around. Now, my guess is, and this is only a guess, they're probably not going to let us move it there. They're going to probably make us put it here. So it's really just going to come around that corner. I don't know what they're going to say yet, because to be frank with you, when we brought them out there, they were about as non-committal as they possibly could be. The conversation went a lot like, and that's it.
So if you want to move it so that people can park and get to their boats, in fact, the water is quite shallow there as you get closer to the 10th green.
Well,
Could it be angled out and then back to the north?
There's several problems with going out farther, because I mean, the argument could be made, well, why don't we just run this out to the end somewhere, out here into the middle? Well, there's only so much we're allowed to do, and that's in terms of penetrate that area with a dock. So that's the other problem that we're up against. So not unlike some of the other questions, those haven't been completed yet. Those won't be completed probably even when we're breaking ground, because I can't move those docks until TVA gives me an answer. The reason I keep saying that is because a dear friend of mine who's the head of TRDA put in a request at TVA a year ago for a signature on something they'd already approved. He got it last week. So the odds of me getting permission in time to move that is pretty slim.
Are you going to have pictures of the outsides of the buildings at the next meeting?
What I was going to tell you was, and I meant to bring them, but what you saw last time in terms of the outside of the building and the design hasn't changed. It's gotten smaller, but the actual design, the roof, the texture of the outside, the hallway walking through and all those things, it's all the same.
Thank you.
You bet. Anything else?
How are you?
I am well.
I had two quick questions. Beforehand, I'd like to express my appreciation and gratitude to everybody who's worked on this from the day of the fire.
Thank you.
The fact that Terry and I golfed the day after the fire, had a tea time, and we showed up between the staff, the volunteers, and everybody, and coming up to this, thank you very much.
I appreciate that. That's them. That's those folks. They should be giving you.
Two things. Number one, as part of this rebuild, is there money for a closed-circuit TV on the first tee box so that the starter doesn't have to keep going out and coming back and going out and coming back?
So I'm going to let Casey answer the problematics of that.
Well, and the second question was regarding the practice range. Is that still part of the future plans, and does this impact it, either delay it, change the scope of it? Thank you.
Your second question first. We're still working on that separate project.
Okay.
But the first question, they have to walk, they go out of the building, and they go about 10, 15 feet. No, it's not. That's not worth the cost of the camera.
Okay.
But I don't mind that either. It gets them out amongst you all, right? So little interpersonal skills, so it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Y'all are welcome with anything else. Oh, I got two more coming. Yep, good, cool. Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to add on to what the gentleman before said, to thank you all for the work. It's been a tremendous project, I'm sure, and we're looking forward to what the results are. But I have a question about the size of the restaurant. So I was looking, it looks like the current Tanassi, well, the old Tanassi that burnt down would seat 176. This new one, the indoor, 176 indoors. The new one will seat 206 indoors. Lots of outdoor space, which is flexible. I guess you could use in inclement weather. But I'm wondering if that is enough space, because we have very, very hot summers here, and we have very cold winter days. And I wonder if that's going to be enough space in the indoors for all occasions.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have talked to the architect about is making sure that all of the wiring and mechanical on the outdoor space would be ready if we chose to have heaters or roll-down screens where it can be used year-round, where we're not having to try to retrofit that in the end. It won't be something we do out of the gate, but it most definitely is part of our thought process now to make that a usable year-round space.
Okay, and would that be as comfortable as being seated indoor, like enough air conditioning and enough heat?
I travel all winter for work, and we eat on outside patios all the time that have screens and heaters, and sometimes you get a little too warm. So if it's done appropriately, then yes, it would be a great experience all year. And they'll
Okay.
have ceiling fans and that type of thing.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
One question.
Yes.
Is there going to be a acceleration and deceleration lane going both ways?
Yes.
So that'll be 4 lanes wide.
No. Sorry, I misunderstood your question then. Go back to the other one before. Sorry, guys. Yep, there we go. There'll be a deceleration lane here and an acceleration lane here. You're going to have 3 lanes here, a turning lane, one going that way.
So
one
there
going
won't be
this
an
way.
acceleration lane if you're turning left?
Yes.
Okay. And a comment. I hope an arrangement is going to be made so that when the first day that the restaurant opens, all the first responders who came get to come and eat free.
It's a perfectly reasonable suggestion. Yes, sir.
This question is for Casey. Has there been any thought to making the back 9, flipping the back 9 with the front 9?
Yes, sure. It used to be that way, actually, and it was changed from.
Actually, it is, the original design is the way it is now. And then it was changed, and then it's changed back now. And if you walk through, I'm stealing your thunder here, bud, but if you walk through, I won't bore you with the details, but look at where you start, clubhouse. Look at where the first rest area is. Look at where your clubhouse turn is. Look at where the backside, and you're all out of sequence. And one of the primary reasons that we changed it back was because gentlemen took to the weeds an awful lot. That's it. It would significantly reduce the question of the starter overlooking the first green.
Sure. It does. And we're aware of that, especially with the POA now owning the food services, after you come off 9 green, we want to encourage our players to go into the restaurant at the turn. Whereas if you're coming off the current 18 green and turning to the front 9, number 1, most people are just going to take a left, go under the tunnel, and go to the tee. So we want players to go by and also have that restroom option as well. Finishes your 9th hole at the clubhouse. But that's not to say that when we get in there, we don't change, right? We can always change things. So it's in the thought process.
Thank you, Casey.
Anyone else? You guys are way too quiet tonight. Either that or we answered your questions, which I'm hoping it's the latter. All right, if there's no one else, we'll bring this to a close and thank you all sincerely for coming and taking your time.